Good evening. What's going on there, guys? It is your Earthmaster here on the live stream with an update video on this Friday evening party night out here in Northern California. It's about 6:32 p.m. California time, of course, on this January 7th, 2022 date. Latest earthquake on the globe, a 3.1 earthquake up into the Alaska region. About 6-kilometer depth for that earthquake. Looking at the live seismograph stations there, definitely seeing some activity ramp up around the Hawaii area. Looking at some major increase in earthquake activity at the Kilauea crater area. And also some movement into Northern California once again. Been watching a couple of these spikes pop up all day. Definitely localized earthquake. And you guessed it, not reported by the USGS. Let's go ahead and look at some activity around the flat scale map here by the USGS, right? A little bit of movement into the West Coast area, Southern California. Movement up here into Northern California has not been reported, like I had mentioned. They are reporting just a fraction of the earthquake activity that I've been watching all day in this region of the state. Down south here, a little bit of activity into the Los Angeles area. Looks like the latest quake up here, a 1.0 earthquake at 8.3 kilometers. Still seeing some movement off the coast of Huntington Beach area in the San Pedro Channel. And also the San Jacinto Fault area showing some increased activity. And as far as the swarm goes down here, along the southern end of the Brawley seismic zone and the northern end of the Imperial Fault, kind of like right in between the two, if you will. Haven't seen any renewed movement. That could be a good sign there, but they did have a pretty good swarm of earthquake activity earlier today and overnight within that region. The rest of San Andreas Fault here, the sleeping monster, remains relatively quiet up here in the above the Garlock Fault structure, which is this shear fault right here. Kind of looks dangerous, though, doesn't it? If you really think of all the plate dynamics here, you got one plate going the other way, and this plate going that way, and it's just something's got to pop here. This is just kind of, it's been weighing on my mind quite a bit, the possibility of seeing something there in that region. Ridgecrest area seen some activity, but nothing significant over the last 24 hours. The movement around the Bishop area looks to be dying down at the moment, south of the volcanic tableland area. A couple of small microquakes throughout the last 24 hours, and Nevada area, not as much activity tonight as we had seen last night. There are just a couple microquakes, and looks like a 2.9 largest in this little cluster here outside of Tonopah on the east side here of the Highway 3 region. Let's go ahead and look at a little bit more detailed look here into the Bay Area, where we're seeing let's go ahead and pull up these 7 days and see if this adds any. Not a whole lot. We've seen some movement here last night and also over the last 24 hours. Just a couple small microquakes, just almost right smack dab on the San Andreas Fault here. Now, it's been quite a while since we've had a significant quake here, 1906, so definitely accumulated stress over time, definitely well over 100 years in that region. I can't say for certain if this is something bigger coming or not, but it's definitely been a little bit more active than what we've seen in recent times here. So kind of watching that area as a little bit more swarming occurs right outside of San Francisco. Up here in the north of Napa, south of Ukiah, a little bit of movement around the hydrothermal plants here outside of Kelseyville. Of course, you got the Mount Konocti area. A lot of heat underneath the ground here, creating energy and steam. This is all earthquake activity, but man-made at that. Up here to the north, a little bit of activity outside the Alder Springs area. This is kind of an odd area. There is the fault system here, the Bartlett Springs fault system, and also the Macama fault system here, the kind of like a coastal range fault area. I've seen a little swarm of movement up here. I was just up here last week or so looking at all the snow in the mountains, but we are getting some activity kicking up there. Largest one so far, 2.8. That's the most recent earthquake. About at least 6 kilometers for that one. They did have a 2.0, relatively shallow at 2.6. So just a little bit of movement there into the coastal range here outside of the Sacramento Valley. Sacramento Valley, of course, sits over here, and along with the Chico area where I'm from, and activity up here south of Eureka. But I guarantee you, man, there's a lot more than what these folks are saying. I just don't understand why they're not including all the microquakes. A little bit of movement, at least on the map here, down into the subduction zone. Once again, 29 kilometers, 23 kilometers for a couple of microquakes reported there on the map. Pacific Northwest, relatively quiet throughout the area. Looking at a little bit of movement up here in the north. A little deeper earthquake outside of Victoria. 0.4 at 15.7 kilometers. Let's go ahead and zoom into the tremor map here real quick along the Cascadia. I have not looked at this yet. Wow, I almost seen this number. I almost seen this number right here as the amount of epicenters. I was like, whoa, what's going on there? But none. Zip zero once again. It's just, it's kind of an odd deal right now. We're getting into a very lengthy, quiet period, if you will. And if you look at this map, this little chart up here on the pnsn.org/tremor site, you can obviously see the count of tremors when you run across them. The higher the spikes, more the tremor count is during that period. And they come in waves, like everything else in life, right? Everything comes in waves. But most recently, though, over the past year or so, we've seen these the gap kind of close here between these waves. We had a pretty lengthy period of some intense tremor last year. I can't remember the exact, yeah, it may have been around September, October area. But then November and December, almost nothing. And that is kind of continuing into this year. With extreme quiet activity along the Cascadia. And no doubt, if you look at over time, there's definitely been some periods of quietness, but I think we might be looking at least for this quiet period, unlike any other ones here, at least in the recent history. So kind of have to watch this and see what this may become. Nothing over the last week, over the last month. You can see very minimal activity. Very minimal, if that, since the December range, just nothing. And today, once again, nothing along the Cascadia. I do want to look at what do we got going on out here. Let's finish up the rest of the states before we get into Hawaii. A lot of activity kicking up there in Kilauea. Let's see, a movement outside of Mexicali area. Some microquakes at 1.5. Right smack dab on the border. Look at that. Over here to the east, Arizona, New Mexico, all pretty quiet. Some dwindling earthquake activity in the Texas and Oklahoma area. Looks like a 1. What do we got? Sparks, Oklahoma? Never heard of that area. 1.7 in the Sparks area outside of OKC, Chandler area. Little microquake out there. Can anybody take a guess what's out there? Well, it's a beautiful land. I love Oklahoma. I definitely do, but it looks like there's a little bit of fracking operations out there, or maybe not fracking, but oil pumping operations. Not as intense as certain areas of Oklahoma that we see, but man, I really don't see too much out there in the terms of it being close by this 1.7. So it's hard to say, but definitely Oklahoma does have quite a bit of those areas where they create man-made earthquakes. New Madrid zone, not a whole lot. Eastern part of the country, earthquake country, South Carolina, pretty quiet tonight. But those folks are kind of glad, but still be on guard out there. If you guys are out there along the East Coast, it is in a seismically hazard area. You can see that there in the red zone. A lot of people don't know about that, right? Kind of similar to how a lot of people don't know about the sleeping giant here off the coast of Oregon. Quite a few people I've talked to through Oregon and the Northern California area. Yeah, I mean, we got a tsunami back in 1964 from the Alaskan earthquake, and man, that was kind of scary, but they don't realize right smack dab here, the potential from this mega monster is anything unlike what people would see here. Talking about 9.0 or greater, the Cascadia subduction zone. I go up here a lot, not only to study old tsunami deposits and whatnot, which in fact we'll be talking about that more later in a future update video. Mimis went up there a couple months ago and got some tsunami deposits and did a little bit of investigating from the 1700 tsunami. But a lot of people staying in the motels and stuff like that and shopping centers. Yeah, what's the Cascadia? What's that? What is that? And I'm thinking, man, really? How do these people not know about that? You know, if anything, this should be taught in school all up and down the Pacific Northwest. So it's, man, I don't know. Maybe some people choose to ignore it, but not me. That's a mega potential up there. Utah region. I know you can't sit there and dwell on it, but the thing is, you guys can be informed and definitely be aware of your surroundings. And this is surrounding the Pacific Northwest, and it would definitely be damaging if that thing does go. Movement out. Looks like right outside the Sawtooth Fault System, low activity through the Idaho area and into Yellowstone National Park. But other than that, not a whole lot of movement throughout the Intermountain West regions. See what else we got into the Alaska area, where we've seen that latest earthquake. A little swarm of movement around the Cook Inlet area. You can see quite a few microquakes and whatnot throughout this region, up through the Anchorage area. And a little swarm outside of Fairbanks as well, some microquakes in that region of the beautiful state up there. 3.5. Looks like east of Teller, Alaska. 9.3 kilometers for this earthquake out here. Never been up there. That's connect the dots, right? It'd be kind of cool to go up there and see the geology and structure of this land in that region. The Aleutian Trench looks pretty quiet. This area still remains very quiet here, folks. In the Japan Trench, the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench northward, Mariana Trench, and the Philippine Plate looks pretty quiet as well. It's just pretty a little on the odd side. We are seeing some further pressure to the west here from the east, obviously, with that 6.6 that struck in China and a 5.1 aftershock. We haven't seen any further uptick in movement here within this region, but we're getting some deeper activity. Hold on a second here. What do we got here? And 4.6 in Malawi. Is that right? Malawi? Hopefully I did not slaughter that. 10 kilometers for that earthquake there in Africa. And also some movement out here in the mid-Indian Ridge. A couple not microquakes, but low 5 magnitude earthquakes in that region of the world. Some spotty activity through the Solomon Islands and southward. Kermadec Trench, though, seeing a little swarm of movement here. Not deep. Definitely shallow earthquake activity along the Kermadec Trench, 5.1 and a 4.9, roughly between 10 and 18 kilometers. Kind of the bigger picture right now is what's going on out here in Hawaii. Let's go ahead and zoom in. Of course, the southeast flank, very typical of movement and earthquake activity, and the depth there, very typical of just standard background activity. But look at what's going on there at Kilauea. What do we have here? Quite a bit of movement, and this is some deep earthquake activity occurring there below the Kilauea crater region. Getting a little migration here to the south as well. Last time we've seen Kilauea really ramp up is we've seen kind of like a trail of movement leading up to it. But this activity here, just really ramping up right at the crater. I'm not for certain if this has to do with deflation or inflation, but the latest info from the HVO, the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, their daily update from this morning. Okay, I'm not for certain if they need to update this or not, but I think the activity here was put out, or at least this update was put out prior to the uptick in earthquake activity. I'm going to read this here. The summit eruption of Kilauea Volcano within the crater has entered another pause. All recent lava activity has confined to the crater, and there are no indications of activity migrating elsewhere on Kilauea. Summit tilt meters, right? Rapid deflation. At about 1:30 p.m. yesterday, the tilt signal has been flat since about 10 p.m. last night. Volcanic tremor associated with the eruption, as recorded by nearby seismic stations, decreased. Everything kind of looks like it's decreasing there. Lava is not erupting from the western vent. East Rift, let's see, where they were talking about the earthquake activity, the seismic activity. Let me see where it went to. They said that it was at background levels, but I don't think that swarm is pretty much background levels. Earthquake activity, here we go, in the summit region remains below background level. So something's going on there at Kilauea Volcano. It's either due to the deflation or, I don't think so, right? Deflation would be pretty shallow when it comes to creating potential earthquakes here. This is deep. These are 13-kilometer deep earthquakes. So I don't believe that this is deflation type quakes. So kind of watching this area pretty closely, seeing if they're going to put out an update soon. Because all this earthquake activity kind of ramped up after they put out this update at 8:55 HST time, Hawaiian time. So we'll see what happens there. It just kind of looks a little on the crazy side with all that movement there and that type of earthquake activity way below. Let's go ahead and check out the Yellowstone map here. Not a whole lot to report. A couple small microquakes out and about the Maple Creek area. You can see all these spikes here on the seismograph indicating localized earthquake. There's some S waves kicking up here. I'm not for sure which earthquake that is from, but in the last few hours or so, and only a couple small microquakes at the Yellowstone area. No magma intrusion, no doom and gloom here at Yellowstone. Everything looks nice and calm for the moment. What else we got? Let's go ahead and check out the solar weather activity. That is kind of getting a little on the uptick side here. 50% chance of a C flare with an M flare at 10% chance. X flare remains at a 1%. Geomagnetic storming over the next 3 nights or so looks pretty quiet in the green. There is the sunspots there on the globe, on the sun, Earth-facing side, 2925 and 2924. This one's starting to look a little impressive, a little growing, and polarity dynamics there kicking up. But we'll see what happens, right? Back behind that, some little ones. But these ones right here, kind of the main ones that we're kind of focused on for some potential flaring here in the coming days. There's the aurora forecast. Looks pretty bleak at the moment. The global D-layer absorption map looks pretty quiet as well. Not a whole lot going on. A little bit out there in the Australia Kermadec Islands area. Let's see. That's about it, folks. Hope everyone has a good day out there and stay safe. I just sent out about 100 manila envelopes to those folks that were wanting YouTube Earthmaster logos or decals, I should say, and those are sent out in the mail. Look for them in your mailbox. At least the first 100 people. If you put in a request last week, those are the 100 people that got it. The ones that have sent me an email this week. I got to load some more up in the envelopes and send them off. It's just a little on the time-consuming side to send that many out, and of course write everything down, cut the decals out, and write down the addresses and whatnot. So a little bit of time-consuming, but they are out. 100 people got a couple decals coming to them, and we're still sending them out. Okay, it just might take a little while for the folks that put in an email tonight. So if you want one or two, I'm sending out 2 to everyone. Send me an email at earthmastermail@gmail.com. These are pretty cool decals. They're weather resistant, sun resistant, heat and cold resistant. I still have mine on my car from before summer. And of course it gets 115 degrees out here in Northern California, and it looks like it's brand spanking new. No fading, no peeling, and they'll stay on your car for as long as you want it to. All right, guys, I am going to jump off here and enjoy the rest of the evening here with Missy Mimi's. We're going to barbecue up some, what do we get? We got some meat and some ribs to cook up here. Going to barbecue those up with some hickory wood chips and see how that comes out, and just kind of enjoy the rest of the evening. And I hope you guys do too. Just stay safe out there. There's a lot going on out here in the world, a lot of earthquake activity and potential, and a lot of uncertainty. The best thing right now is just to be prepared, stay safe, And definitely, just make sure you got a sound mind and have an earthquake plan, no matter where you live at. Hawaii, there, kind of keep an eye on it. If something changes, if I see another update from the HVO area or the HVO site, I will definitely provide a further update. For now, have a good night, guys. We'll chat to you a little bit later on. Peace out.